If you can and if you have the capacity, we really would like to encourage you to come on camera. Where today is going to be a climate action project workshop. So we're going to have a lot of participatory exercises. I think this is actually the first day that we won't have any visiting speakers. It'll just be us in our groups. And we're going to have a chance to be in our climate action project groups for the first time. So we'll be working in these groups over the course of the next weeks in the course, really up until December. So you'll have a chance today to meet everyone in your group, and most of you were able to send in your responses to the climate action questions that we had. Those questions were really just an opportunity for everyone to start thinking about, if you could focus on one idea and one project in this course, and one, project that would be meaningful for your community in the time that we have. That was just an exercise to kind of jog your thinking and get you in the process of ideating. And so Judy and I read through all of your responses, and the diversity of the projects is incredible. We have lots of different focus areas, but also a lot of resonance. And so your groups have just been we've tried our best to kind of put together both convergent and divergent ideas, just to try and mix it up a little bit. But you'll get to meet everyone sort of in the last 30 minutes, 45 minutes of the session. But for today, Judy and I would just like to do a little bit of framing around these climate action projects so that, we can all just kind of reflect on the last 6 weeks that we've had together. We can kind of start to remember, some of the speakers. We've heard from storytellers, policymakers, chefs, farmers, scientists, filmmakers, activists, and this week from an innovator and entrepreneur. And the thing that each of these leaders has in common is that they identified a need, and or B, responded to an emergent crisis in their communities. And they actually built on their passions to go out and create solutions and offerings to support their communities in the context of environmental work. So we've been learning from these leaders and also learning how to become these leaders ourselves. And this is really all of us in this course together. We've been learning to connect with our passions by responding to the needs of our communities, and create solutions to some of the biggest challenges of our time. And so in the context of our climate action workshop today, I'm going to go through a few, some of the examples that we've seen over the weeks of how these leaders have actually turned their passion into solutions that can keep growing bigger over time. So as I'm going through their unique stories, I'd love for you all to just keep in mind some of these questions I'm going to send in the chat right now. And just reflect on your journey in the course so far. And please, feel free to post your reflections in the chat, your responses to these questions. So I just sent them. So really just, who stood out to you the most and why? What do you most care about? If you could wave a magic wand and solve an environmental problem, what would it be and why? And another way to think about this is, what's your superpower or passion? What are you already working on? So the thing that comes easily to you that maybe doesn't necessarily come easily to others. And again, I just want to let you know about the format of today's session. So Judy and I will do a little bit of framing right now until about 10:30, and then we'll actually be going into pairs, which is why we'd really love everyone, if possible, to come on camera. And when you're in those pairs, just feel free to unmute and have a conversation with each other. You'll have 30 minutes to actually talk through together using this worksheet that we've created, to talk through your projects together, to brainstorm, to ideate, support each other, encourage each other, and just spend time thinking through your projects. And the pairs are actually people who will be in your actual climate action group for the remainder of the course. And then you'll actually come into those groups. There's 4 people per group, and there's 6 groups. You'll come into those groups to kind of share, what your projects are with each other in the larger group. And then we'll have hopefully a little bit of time at the end of the session when we come back to just have some quick takeaways about, what everyone's interested in and focusing on. So that's how the session will run. So it is important that you're able to participate with each other, that you can come and support each other in this climate action workshop. So I'm going to share my screen in a second. So put that away. I'm going to share my screen because I just created a little bit of a slideshow. Just put together some slides to help kind of jog our memories a little bit. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen okay? Could you just give me a thumbs up? Okay, thank you. And I'm going to try, why can't I see my mouse? This is weird. Sorry, I'm gonna put that picture away. Okie dokes. Okay. So, so we started this journey with Matt Scott on the first day. He actually opened the course for us. And if you remember, Matt was from Project Drawdown, is from Project Drawdown. And Matt's journey was really about, he connected, what we learned from him was that he connected with someone who had a story just like him, someone who had asthma in his community and was affected by the increasing pollution. And through that experience, he actually was able to connect to his superpower as a strategic storyteller. And, he shared this quote with us, even as I was encouraging people to create solutions, I hadn't thought about how I could use my own voice. And so he's kind of been teaching us in this process of how we connect with our own voice and our own stories. And then, we had Natasha Giraudy and Palm come and visit us. And in a way, Natasha, so again, thinking through all of these leaders responded to a need in their communities or to an emergent crisis using their existing skills and passions. So Natasha helped to meet the needs of Palm's community by telling, the Winnemem Wintu tribe's story of taking action for the Shasta River, for the Chinook salmon, and for their ecosystem. And in turn, Palm was able to support her work as a storyteller and help her connect and meet her need to tell the stories of the land. Dr. JP shared with us this beautiful quote, if we're true to ourselves, there's no need to be true to anything else because we're being true to the entire world. We heard from Debbie Rafael from the San Francisco Department of Environment. And something I remembered from her talk was the antidote to anxiety is action. And Debbie really built her contribution. She realized that her contribution was actually not as a scientist, or not only as a scientist, but as a policymaker working in government, after realizing that actually this was where she could best serve. We had a really fantastic strategic campaigning workshop with Herbicide Free Campus. And again, just a reminder, if anything jogs your memory or you're having reflections or questions come up, feel free to send those in the chat. This is just a process to kind of help you remember and get thinking about what we've learned. So again, Mackenzie identified a problem, a real need in her community, and also a crisis, a public health crisis. And helped to build a movement where universities and campuses across the US are actually organized around, the notion of sustainable and regenerative land management. So we had that incredible workshop with them. We learned from Marinel Ubaldo, from the Philippines, who actually saw the effects in her community of unmitigated carbon emissions and fossil fuel burning. And she was able to respond to an emergent crisis in her community by organizing folks to actually challenge the powers in her community and the lawlessness of corporate actors. We also had a fantastic workshop talk from Sanket. Sanket, again, saw an unmet need in his community for environmental education, for youth-led education. He actually built an entire organization around the idea of empowering young people to be solution leaders, to be solutions experts, and therefore meet the most pressing needs of their community. And the result, that we learned about from Sanket was that we actually see the food sovereignty of an entire community in the middle of the pandemic. They were able to solve a real hunger crisis using traditional organic farming methods. We learned from Twyla Cazadore, how to preserve and protect traditional knowledge of how to hunt, forage, and prepare indigenous foods. She's been doing that for her community and leading groups of women and children out into the desert of her, native land, helping to connect. And I remember from Twyla, these 5 pathways that she spoke about of language, song, ceremony, traditional foodways, and prayer. And that's a screenshot from her film, The Hunt. We learned from Ashley Ugarte about indigenous cacao, her journey to discovering her roots through her passion, her passion for preparing beautiful food as a pastry chef, as a chocolatier. She was able to connect with her Mexican heritage and the traditional ways of preserving and preparing cacao, and has now transformed that into her company, Reina. Again, Chef Kabui, who we had this wonderful food cooking session with last week. And his quote, we should all be working towards a time where everyone can have access to growing food, even if they don't have land. So Chef Kabui really has been able to transform how we think about indigenous food systems and land justice through his passion for cooking, his passion for cooking delicious food. And then just more recently, Beth Koigi, who experienced firsthand the effects of water pollution in her community and responded to that crisis by going ahead and inventing a new technology to build equitable water access. So these are just, some of the ideas that we've all been kind of thinking through together. And I wanted to end with a quote from one of you that, our TAs have been taking notes and remembering quotes every session. And we have this wonderful quote from Amarechi that really connects to Kara's workshop on climate justice. those closest to the problem are closest to the solution. So we should include those most affected in leadership, collaborate and meet each other's needs. And as I said at the beginning, this has been a process of us not only learning from these leaders, but learning how to become these leaders ourselves. And as we, transition our focus to thinking through our climate action projects, let's kind of trace those threads of inspiration, of connectivity. Let's reflect on what resonated with us from each of these speakers. I was able to include just a few of them, but there were actually quite a few more. And as we're talking with each other, let's just keep all of this in mind. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And another beautiful leader that we've been able to learn from in this course is Judy. Judy created Turning Green through a process of responding to an emergent crisis in her community, a public health crisis. So I'd love to hear from you, Judy, just, your thoughts on how you actually went about, identifying those needs and responding to that crisis, and what your journey has been like.
First, Natasha, that was absolutely beautiful. And what an incredible way to reflect on all the weeks that we've spent together. So I just want to say so much gratitude for reminding me of what this journey has looked like, and the heart and the passion that you brought to it. So thank you very much. And I think the thing that Natasha said at the very end about that you are all finding your superpowers and stepping into your own leadership. What I've realized since we started this organization is that you are all leaders. The youth that I get to hang out with every day is totally my inspiration, and there's so much in you, and you don't always know that. You don't always know that your voice matters that much and that your ideas are that resonant. So I want to just sort of start there and remind you that why I get to do what I do and have from the very start of this journey is because of the next generations that are behind me and those that are in front of me as well. So I'm just going to light on a few of the moments for me that were transformative. So I think you all know from previous chats that my whole life began in television production, because that's where I was drawn, because that's where the Olympics for me were, where people came together. So I learned life through that lens and didn't really arrive at activism until I read a book when I was pregnant with my daughter and realized that I had a role and a mission in her life that I needed to take seriously. And back in 2002, we had a crisis in our community based on high rates of breast and prostate cancer that were brought to us from our leadership. And our leadership basically said, your rates are off the charts, but we don't have enough money to address that. And I heard that, and I think it was the first time in my life that I just thought, I'm not going to sit here and listen to this. I have a daughter, I have friends, breast cancer is rampant in my community. And we have all these academic institutions and brilliant people that can start trying to figure this out. So the only thing I knew how to do was go to the people. And I didn't even know I knew how to do that. But I decided that I had to galvanize a group of people that cared that deeply about their community, about their health, about their right to health, and organized a door-to-door campaign and gathered 2,000 people. And on a day in 2002, we marched around to 50,000 households in this community to basically tell people that they had a voice and that they did matter, and that whatever was causing these cancer rates had to be addressed. And it landed just, much like a lot of our kids in Project Green Challenge right now are writing. Part of the challenge is that they have to write to legislators and governors and people in charge and say, hey, we're here, we need your help. Climate change is real, do something about it. My goal was, hey, people, we need you to come forward so that we can go to our policymakers together and rattle their cages. And that's what ultimately happened. We happened to rattle the cage of a very powerful senator that lived in Marin County, where this door-to-door campaign happened. And she changed the entire landscape. And I will never forget the day that her aide called and said, basically, you're invited to a meeting of 40 of the top leaders around cancer research in the Bay Area because of the work that you did on November 8th, 2002. And it blew my mind that something that I did actually had an impact on the senator from my state. And I think that was my moment to know that one person does make a huge difference. Doesn't matter how big or small the difference, it just matters that you did something. In 2005, based on that door-to-door campaign, and the fact that I had a daughter that was 13 at the time, and that I had seen during the door-to-door campaign that there were so many young people that wanted to help, I started what now became, what now is Turning Green, really with and for my daughter, because I wanted her to be active around the choices that her generation was making and the impact that her generation could have. And then in 2011, after we built an organization for a while, we decided to take all of the teachings that we were doing and apply them in some framework, and that became Project Green Challenge. And the need there was that students weren't being taught in school about all these issues. And they were doing it outside of school. Like we had little campaign groups all over the country, little chapters of the organization. And I realized that maybe if we created a framework that everybody could be part of, that it would totally empower them. And I decided that the framework had to be 30 days, which was probably crazy, but Project Green Challenge is 30 days and you learn for 30 days and your life changes in 30 days as a result. And through that process, we've seeded an incredible generation of leaders that all of whom, all of our finalists from Project Green Challenge, I will know forever. All of you, I hope I know forever. But the whole goal is to bring people together to dive as deeply as you can to understand your superpower. I mean, my superpower is my passion for connectivity. And because of the work that I did at a much younger age, my opportunity to vision and to create something that I think needs to happen because I think I can, and oftentimes it actually works. In 2013, I was challenged by my board chair to start doing something back in the community I lived in, because that's where the door-to-door campaign started. And then we left and started working all over the world. And the Conscious Kitchen began because I was very saddened as I walked in and out of schools to see that students were sicker and sicker every year. There were more special needs classes. Kids weren't eating. There was a lot more food insecurity. Even in a community, I live in a very affluent community, and yet 20% of this community is starving and is hungry. So the Conscious Kitchen for me was utilizing the organic farms that we have where we live and applying that food to underserved communities that needed food. And I just decided I was going to see if it worked, and a superintendent gave me permission. And that was all I needed, because all you need to do is have a proof point and to do a pilot, because pilots aren't hard to start and people usually don't say no. If you come in and you have this massive idea and you want to do it tomorrow, you might not get the same kind of support that you'll get if you test. So the Conscious Kitchen was a test 9 years ago, and here it is. And in 2020, I was invited into a whole school district, or we, the organization, to transform their food boxes from what they were giving out to putting 10 pounds into 13,000 boxes every week. And I decided that I was going to push the envelope a little bit and see if we could turn the entire box into an organic food box. And lo and behold, the food service director said yes. And so again, we aggregated all the organic suppliers that we could. We bought from local farmers and ranchers and chicken farms and egg farms, and we turned everything organic in a matter of months because we could, and because we had a willing person that we were working with. In 2021, based on a young man that I think I've told you about also from Peru, who decided he wanted to be the head of sustainability in his university because during Project Green Challenge, he realized there was such a job. And he'd never known that because the playing field and the way we're educated isn't level. That, some countries have lots of opportunity to educate their students in their universities and some don't. And if we're all in this together, how do we have a playing field that is even? How do we share and ideate and create visions together that we know we can dream up and then go do? And that was the basis for me for all of you to be present in your little squares right now, learning together and influencing one another and ideating together. And the last thing I'm going to tell you about is one of the projects that I'm working on with our Conscious Kitchen intern team right now is to get glyphosate, which is a chemical in Roundup that is probably used in all of your countries, that's egregious and horrible and damaging and killing. We want to get it out of cereal. Lo and behold, conventional cereal has things like glyphosate that are determined by the World Health Organization to be a probable human carcinogen. And we're all ingesting that every single day. And in my mind, that is an egregious violation of our right to health. So we decided that we were going to do a public comment back to the organization that oversees chemicals in our state, something called Prop 65. That's a whole list of horrible chemicals. And when you walk into a building, you see Prop 65 chemicals are present in this building, but there's no enforcement. So there might be Prop 65 chemicals in cereal, but kids are allowed to ingest those chemicals because there's no enforcement. So we created a public comment for the organization, the agency of the state that is overseeing Prop 65 this week. And we also targeted Cheerios, which I'm sure is in all of your countries. And Cheerios has glyphosate. General Mills is the company that makes it. They won't remove the glyphosate. So we created a Cheerios box that would basically say all the things that it should on the outside of the box if it was transparent, that it has glyphosate in it, that it's, harmful to human health, that it's a probable human carcinogen. And we wrote a public comment about why this was so important, why things had to be labeled, why we didn't want these chemicals in the things that we were eating. And I had no idea how to build this campaign. I had never written a public comment. I didn't know what that looked like. And I gave the task to our interns. And I said, basically, here's as much information as I can give you. I will guide you. I will walk down this road with you, but I'm going to invite you to write the public comment. And they killed it. They did such an amazing job on it. And we had it vetted by Debbie Rafael, who you met, Dr. Shade, who you met, a couple other people who you will meet that are in our sphere. And it blew all of their minds. None of them could believe how well researched this work was, how well done it was. We created, with our graphic designer, a Cheerios box, which I can show you guys if you want to see it, but basically the vision of what the box would look like. And I just want to say, and I said to the kids yesterday, we were talking about launching this campaign and getting legislators involved and changing regulations. One of the students said, well, I was talking to my professor and it's going to take so long for us to change a regulation, so I'm not sure we can do this. And I'm like, wait, we are going to do this. We will do this because it's the right thing. And we can't sit by and expect that just because things are supposed to take a long time, that there's not a workaround, that there's not something we can do in the meantime, that we can't do something as a pilot because people will say okay to that versus, change the whole world tomorrow. They won't say okay to that. So I live basically by the seat of my pants. I look out at the world and figure out what doesn't look just, who's being impacted, how can we heal that? And then basically I bring every brilliant student I possibly can into the fold so that together we can figure out what this all looks like. Because you each have superpowers, every one of you. And if you collect them and put them together, there's nothing that you can't change on earth. So I guess my message is dream and do everything you want and don't let anybody stop you. And know that the things that matter to you matter a lot. and use your voices. That's all from me for now. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Judy. It's really helpful to, get some of those details on how you actually went about doing things in your context. And I love what you said about, doing a pilot, that a lot of times you can get people on board when you're testing, and it's a lot easier that way than trying to have a grand plan and not really get the kind of response that you're looking for. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. And everyone, Judy is here and available for us in this course. So she's an incredible guide and has so much wisdom to share. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out. I think we are pretty much ready to go into our sessions together. So there's going to be one group of 3. We have a couple of people absent today. So we're going to have one group of 3, just so you all know. Cassie, are we ready to go into those groups? Awesome. Okay, everyone. So I'm going to come back Welcome back, everyone. I know it always feels like such a short time together, and we really try to pack in as much as we can in these 90-minute sessions. But I just want to encourage you all, continue based on just the threads that emerged in this session together, continue to develop those ideas. And as I mentioned before, it's not, it's not about having everything together and perfect all at once. A lot of these things emerge through conversation. People asking each other questions, prompting each other's ideas in different ways. So, and there's no bad idea. We're all just figuring it out together and start just really beginning this journey. But as we as we go into the next few weeks, we're actually going to be thinking about these climate action projects and developing them, and ultimately, coming up with a plan and a strategy of how we're going to go about getting it done. And these climate action groups that we're in are just here to keep us motivated, keep us accountable to the intentions and the goals that we're setting, and also just encourage and inspire each other through asking good questions. I would love for us all by the end of this journey to get really good at asking each other the best possible question that can really help us get to that next level. So we'll have more time for this as we continue. Judy, I see your hand is up.
Hands up. So takeaways from our beautiful group. I'm going to send to each of the people that I sat with the climate action proposals that we've received from you guys in the past couple of days, so that each person in that group gets to know what the other person is thinking about in their head, because there's so much time to exchange. So I'd like to ask the same of whoever the TAs are that are assigned to a group to pull together, and Natasha and I can help you. But read about what each other's saying, because I think you're more than accountable. You're partners. You're in this together to help figure out where you're going from here to there, to access your wisdom, to figure out what the like threads are, where you can all lean in together and share similar opportunities. In our group, education is a resonant theme, and piloting and being in community is a resonant theme. So how do you identify those and then act on them? And how do you support each other so you're so powerful? And anyway, the other thing is that Natasha said that we're here. I live to dream. Any of you, anytime, I will be so happy to sit with you and just brainstorm and come up with crazy ideas together. So please, don't ever hesitate to reach out and say, I need some time. I am so here, and Natasha is so here, and you're all here for each other. So you're bold change makers. So let's go out into the world and kill it, because we can.
Thanks, Judy. Thanks for that. All right, everyone, super excited for the journey ahead, and we're here for you. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And yeah, and if there's anything that you need from us, send an email. Monday is the beginning of Oceans Week, and we have some amazing speakers coming. So we're going to be continuing to learn from these leaders. And also keep in mind, if there's a question that would help you with your project for any of the leaders that we've engaged with, feel free to reach out to me and let me know, and I'll see if they're open to having a conversation as well, because we will have opportunities for mentorship and more skills building as we go. And the idea with the groups is that you're actually drawing on each other's skills. So, if there's an amazing graphic designer or someone who's really good with communications and writing, we can also, we can draw on that collective skill set that we have. All right, everyone, thank you for staying on, and have a beautiful weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.